welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be drawing an Easter scene. So what I'm wanting to do is have my persona be in the middle, and around them I want bunnies and eggs scattered everywhere. I'm going to give her an Easter themed outfit. I'm also going to throw some plants and a bookshelf in there. My goal is to make the room feel like an actual place that's interacted with normally instead of a staged place for photos. But anyway, now that we know what's going on, I'm going to talk about my art journey and plans for the channel for the rest of the video. So many artists tend to focus on people when starting out. I did, of course, get into drawing people a little bit when starting out, but most of my earlier drawings were actually nature or room scenes. I absolutely loved and still do love drawing cluttered rooms, and I plan to incorporate that into my art on here, but I'll come back to that later. I started drawing when I was like 4. It wasn't anything crazy. I drew my mom her childhood bear at one point, but not a whole lot else was going on. All through elementary, I was exposed to art through my classes a lot. Especially in 3rd grade, my teacher had us doing all sorts of arts and crafts. Middle school was when art became something I chose to do more so though. I made a friend in 4th grade, and we bonded over art throughout middle school and into junior high. She ended up leaving the end of 7th grade though, and we didn't keep contact. Her Instagram popped up for me recently though, and she's still doing art. I think she's working on becoming an art teacher, which is cool. But anyway, she was definitely a big reason I delved further into art. High school was when I really started focusing on art. I would spend hours in my room just making anything that came to my mind. In between junior high and high school, so 8th and 9th grade, is when I started drawing cluttered rooms just for my head. Before that, it was mostly mountains, rivers, and the odd person. Of course, COVID happened, so I had even more time to do art, and I spent it experimenting. I drew people, animals, I got into drawing fantasy-type buildings, and of course I still drew nature and rooms, too. I continued this even after going back to school in person my 11th grade year. Being home for a year and a half was such an odd experience. I ended up taking an art class, one during COVID online, then one when I came back in person. Both were with the same teacher. He was a very interesting individual. I miss his class, honestly. He introduced me to many art mediums that I had never tried. He had us working in charcoal, watercolor, clay, pastels, acrylic, and he had us do stamp making at one point too. I really enjoyed doing that. He would always have lo-fi or rock music playing in the room, and the blinds were always open. The room just felt so warm and welcoming. Definitely the right feel for making art. I sadly didn't have another art class my senior year, but I was still very into art. I did acrylic painting a good bit, but mostly stayed in my sketchbook practicing people more. I did do some watercolor for a while. I think the cluttered rooms and watercolor go really well together. Then I, of course, graduated. Entering college, where I decided to go in as a fine arts major. Spoiler, it didn't work out too well for me. I did, however, learn some things from the 2 classes I had. I took Drawing 1 and Design 1 my first semester, before changing my major to General Theater. Drawing 1 was a lot like my high school class, just mostly still lifes though. He was real open with his teaching. He just wanted us to have a space to make, which is great. But as someone looking to learn, I was a little confused at the point. He had the mindset of creating something even if it isn't great, is still making art, and if you have the passion, something will come from it. I agree with this, but I was fresh into college and unsure of what I was going to do with my life at that point, so I felt stuck. I had so much freedom that I felt confined. Then there was Design 1, which was the opposite. That teacher needed everything to be perfect. I had never hated rulers and straight lines so much in my entire life. I own a T-square now that I haven't used in a hot minute. His class had me stressed all the time because he'd have us do these big illustrations on illustration boards that had to have perfectly measured out borders. Then we'd go up and present them. But before that, we'd have to do sketches based off the restrictions in the prompt he had for us. Then he'd come around and pick which one we'd do. I made some really cool stuff in both of the classes, but I was so burnt out that once I switched majors, I barely drew for 2 years. The past few months have been me getting back into art again. Because I miss it. Like I mentioned closer to the start of this video, I want to incorporate cluttered rooms into my art on this channel. This drawing is a tame version of what I have in mind. I plan to draw my persona in different environments, mostly interacting with things that loosely or very much so have to do with me. But I want to give a glimpse into parts of a fantasy world I've built in my head over the past few years. It's a very broad world, so there are many different things I can sneak into my art. I think I want to do an alchemy one soon, or a botanic one. The room type drawings, I really need a name for them. The fragments, so I'll call them fragments from now on. My little pieces of my world. Yeah, that works. The fragments are going to be very detailed drawings that I plan to use not only as a way to show off my crazy world I've made, but to also challenge myself through my art. I have a very clear picture of what this world looks like in my head, and I want to get as close to it as I can. It's going to be a very interesting journey for sure, but I'm going to enjoy this thoroughly. These drawings will definitely take some time, so my posting schedule may end up being once a month, maybe twice a month if I do some smaller videos in between the fragment ones. It's something I'll have to feel out as I go. That's really what I've been doing altogether with this channel, just letting myself slowly figure things out as I make my videos. So far it's working great. This one is a big jump from my first, and I only see it getting better from here, especially now that I've played around with recording and editing some more. But anyway, let's delve a bit further into my world for a bit. This world is one that has slowly developed over the past almost 4 years, so a bit before my senior year started. It's a mix of many different types of people, like alchemists exist in this world, but also apothecaries. There are kingdoms in this world, but there's also a place kind of like the US, but it doesn't actually have a government. Different parts are run by different groups of people, like mafias, but not with the drugs. This is where my world began, and it slowly branched out to the kingdoms I've made. The kingdom my persona actually ends up in is a place of mostly botany, but it, at some point, took over a neighboring kingdom that is more so art and knowledge centered, so they now are kind of mixed together. This kingdom is filled with apothecaries, good and bad ones. My persona is more so of an alchemist, but she at some point did work with a very well-known apothecary. He was one of my first OCs. He's a dangerous individual who doesn't work for anyone other than himself. He's also quite antisocial, so he's kind of seen as a scary myth by people who don't reside in the kingdom. He holds a special place in my heart, so he may end up in one of my fragments. I'll call him Aconite for now. My persona, I'm going to call her Yarrow. Not her name, but it'll work as her alt name. Aconite is also an alt name. She ends up working for another one of my characters in the gardens of this kingdom, or more so the castle gardens, which is a big deal because it's what the kingdom is centered around. This character is one of a few of the king's associates. He's in charge of caring for many rare and sensitive plants within the castle walls. He's also responsible for regulations of different substances allowed to be used within the kingdom, alongside another associate. So him and Aconite butt heads sometimes. Many of the apothecaries and people who work within the castle hide their true identities, hence Yarrow's mask and jester getup. Of course, the king knows his associates' real identities, but many of them don't know each other's in case someone ends up working for another kingdom or someone else. But Yara works under, his alt name will be Leonidas. All of these names are flower names, by the way. They may or may not change over time. She works under Leonidas, who is known for not taking on help, unlike the other associates. She's looked up to him for quite a while because of her deep passion for plants. She admires his work, and she's also a very curious person, so of course she'd be interested in the rare plants within the castle. Why did he take her on? That'll be something to get into another time. Oh yeah, a type of magic exists in this world too that may or may not have to do with Leonidas's decision. But anyway, I think that's a pretty decent look into a part of Yara's story in this world. It may change over time, but for now that's a part of where it is. There's a lot more to this world that I haven't even touched on, but I don't have enough time to in this video, so I'll talk more about the world in the fragment videos. There will be some other types of videos, but I think this will be my main focus. Anyway, this Easter drawing is about done, so let's take a look. I'm pretty happy with this drawing. It's so cutesy. I really love the gray bunny in the basket at the bottom. It looks so shy and adorable. But that's it from me. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching and happy Easter!